Welcome to the Deep Dive. You know the drill by now. We take a monumental life, we stack up the sources, articles, memoirs, all of it, and we try to pull out the essential story.
Right. We're looking for the struggles, the ingenuity.
And just the pure, unadulterated grit that defined their whole quest.
And today, we are diving deep into the life of a true pioneer. I mean, a figure whose ambition just redefined the limits of high-altitude exploration. Junko Tabei.
Oh, absolutely.
Her legacy is so immense, it literally reached the highest points on Earth and then just keeps going.
Beyond our atmosphere into the cosmos, it's incredible. That legacy really is monumental. And the source material we've gathered, it paints such a vivid picture of a woman who just systematically defied every single expectation.
Social, physical, you name it.
She faced down actual life-threatening disaster. And then after all that, after achieving global fame, she just quietly pivoted.
To saving the very mountain environment she'd conquered. It's a spectacular story.
It is.
A story of relentless pursuit against, just overwhelming odds. When we look at Tabei's biography, it's really bookmarked by two central, colossal achievements.
Two things that forever changed the history of exploration and women in sports.
Exactly.
Okay, so the first one is the achievement everyone knows. It's the one that broke global headlines, right?
Right. In 1975, she became the first woman to reach the summit of Mount Everest.
And for most people, that would be it. That's the pinnacle of a lifelong career.
But for Tabei, it was, just one necessary, incredibly challenging stop on a much grander journey.
So what's the second colossal achievement?
That came much later. In 1992, she became the first woman to ascend the 7 summits.
So successfully scaling the highest peak on every single continent.
Every single one. That puts her in the most rarefied air of, the most dedicated explorers in history.
So our mission in this deep dive is to understand not just what she climbed, but, and this is critical, how she did it. We're digging through biographical excerpts, her early life, the severe social and financial challenges she faced.
The absolutely dramatic and dangerous Everest expedition.
And her later life as an environmentalist and a mentor. We're looking at how she pursued this incredibly expensive, totally male-dominated sport.
Against immense pressure.
Armed with basically just ingenuity and sheer tenacity.
Yeah. We'll explore the financial hurdles, the cultural conflicts inside her all-female team.
The near-death experience in the avalanche.
And that profound shift she made from conqueror to conservator.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start at the very beginning, with the moments that really set her on this path.
Sounds good.
So Junko Tabei was born Junko Ishibashi in 1939, Biharu, Fukushima.
In the biographical accounts, they all emphasize her humble beginnings. She was the 5th daughter of 7 kids. Her father was a printer.
And what immediately stands out is this physical contrast. She was, ironically enough, considered a frail child.
Yeah, that detail is so important, isn't it? Being seen as frail. It just sets up this beautiful contrast with the iron will she showed later on.
So how did she get into climbing?
Her introduction was mandatory, not chosen. It was a class trip to Mount Nasu when she was just 10 years old.
And that single trip, that became the pivot point of her entire life.
It really did. And what she found on that mountain, it defined her whole lifelong passion. There were 2 specific things she loved about it.
Okay.
First, she loved the non-competitive nature of the sport. Mountaineering, at its core, it's personal. It's you against your own limits, against the scale of the mountain.
Not you against another person.
Exactly.
Which makes sense of her later desire to be remembered as just the 36th person to summit Everest.
Yeah.
Not the first woman.
Right. She was doing it for herself. And the second thing was she was just utterly captivated by the landscapes. The raw beauty she could only access through, physical effort.
That initial spark, it persisted. But the sources make it crystal clear that the journey was immediately difficult, financially.
Oh, incredibly difficult. High-altitude mountaineering is an expensive hobby. You need specialized gear, travel, training.
And her family just didn't have that kind of money.
Not at all. And that was the foundational pressure point. It's what molded her resourcefulness later on. Her financial limits meant she could only do a few local climbs during high school.
So she wasn't born into the kind of wealth that usually funded big expeditions back then.
No, she had to use her education to pave the way, so she prioritized her studies. From 58 to 62, she's at Showa Women's University.
Studying English and American literature.
Right, with the initial plan of becoming a teacher. But, the call of the mountains, it was just too powerful.
So after she graduates, she goes right back to climbing.
Immediately. And this is where the social struggle, the resistance from the community really begins.
She starts joining men's climbing clubs.
Because there were no other options for serious female mountaineers. None.
And the sources really outline this.
Yeah.
This distinct social hurdle she faced. Some men were supportive, they saw her skill, but others.
Others were deeply skeptical. They questioned her motives for being in what was so strongly considered a male-only domain.
This wasn't just about her ability, was it? The subtext was critical.
Oh, profoundly. It was critical of women who stepped outside their expected societal roles. The accounts say some men flat out refused to climb with her.
Or worse, they suggested she was just there to find a husband.
Exactly. Can you imagine how frustrating that must have been to be so serious, so dedicated, only to have your efforts reduced to a romantic pursuit?
That's the moment she realizes she can't just fit into the existing structure if she wants to climb seriously.
She has to redefine the structure itself.
By age 27, she's already a serious climber. She's conquered all the major mountains in Japan, including Mount Fuji. She also married a fellow mountaineer, Junko Tabei.
But that frustration with the way she was treated, it was boiling over.
So in 1969, in this decisive act of self-determination, she takes that frustration and channels it.
She founds the Joshi Tohan Club.
The Women's Mountaineering Club.
And this was revolutionary in Japan. At a time when women were expected to be focused on domestic life, Tabei is building this dedicated, highly ambitious club just for women.
And this wasn't some casual hiking group, was it?
Not at all. This club had a radical, almost provocative mission statement.
Captured in their slogan?
A slogan that was a direct challenge to the norms of the era. It was, let's go on an overseas expedition by ourselves.
Wow.
It just encapsulated that need for independence. They weren't asking for permission or waiting to be accepted by a male expedition.
They were defining their own goals, raising their own money, and getting it done on their own terms.
Yeah, and the sources show her tenacity in funding all this. She worked as an editor for a scientific journal.
On top of her climbing and training.
Holding down multiple jobs just to afford the gear and the travel for these dreams. That slogan is just, it's pure power.
It shows the challenge was twofold, right? They were tackling the world's most daunting physical challenges.
And fighting these deeply entrenched cultural expectations about women's roles at the exact same time.
Okay, so the Joshi Tohan Club gets founded. What happens next?
Well, they immediately lived up to their own rallying cry. Within a year, in 1970, they'd organized and embarked on their first major international expedition.
Off to Nepal.
To tackle Annapurna III.
And this wasn't some easy practice run, was it?
Not at all. Annapurna III is a technically challenging mountain, and the team was already showing Tabei's pioneering spirit. She and her partner, Hiroko Hirakawa, they summited via a new route.
A new route on the difficult south side.
That detail is so critical. They weren't just following a path, they were setting a route. And in doing that, they achieved two huge distinctions.
The first female ascent of Annapurna III.
And also the first Japanese ascent of the mountain. They immediately put the Joshi Tohan Club on the map.
As a serious force.
A very serious force in global mountaineering.
And the sources have this great little detail about the conditions, right?
Yeah, it was so brutally cold on the summit push that when they tried to take a picture, their camera's film actually cracked.
Wow,
just
cracked.
A chilling reminder that they were operating at the absolute limit of endurance and technology.
But this success, as triumphant as it was, it exposed an unexpected weakness in the team.
A weakness that was cultural, not physical. Tabei later analyzed this and realized the women were struggling to reconcile traditional Japanese values of quiet strength with the immediate practical needs of high-altitude mountaineering.
Fascinating. So you're talking about this cultural tightrope. How did those values conflict with survival at, 24,000 feet?
Well, it was a clash between the public, stoic face and your true urgent needs. Tabei noticed that a lot of team members were initially reluctant to admit they needed help.
Or that they didn't know something.
Or that they were struggling physically. They preferred this stoic silence, feeling ashamed if they had to voice a weakness.
I can see the cultural pressure there, but on a mountain, that kind of silence can be fatal.
Absolutely fatal. If you don't immediately say you have altitude sickness or your rope is fraying,
the entire team is put at risk.
Precisely. The mountain doesn't reward stoic silence. It demands immediate, clear, and often vulnerable communication.
So climbing at this extreme level forced them to confront these deep cultural norms head-on.
It did. It demanded they acknowledge personal limits, communicate them without shame, and accept help from each other just to survive.
So that's the aha moment.
Mm.
The sport challenged not just their bodies, but their whole social structure.
Exactly. It was transformative. It taught them the necessity of interdependence in a high-stakes environment.
So success on Annapurna III wasn't just a physical feat.
No, it was a societal one. They learned how to function as a truly independent unit, relying only on each other. And that gave them the hard-won expertise and the confidence they needed for their next goal.
Which was Mount Everest.
The ultimate goal. Having pioneered a new route on a major peak, they immediately set their sights higher. In 1971, they applied for the toughest permit in the world.
The transition to Everest, though, it was anything but quick.
Not at all. The club reformed as the Japanese Women's Everest Expedition, or JWE. 15 women, led by Aiko Hisano.
And most of them were working professionals, right? Teachers, doctors.
And 2 of them, including Tabei, were mothers, which just emphasizes the societal pressure and the huge logistical challenge of balancing all these parts of their lives.
And the bureaucracy alone. Just getting the permit.
Oh, that was a test of patience. They applied in 71, but with the tight international climbing schedule, they had to wait 4 excruciating years.
Just to get a slot in 1975.
That wait was grueling, but the financial part, that was the real Everest of the organization.
Tabei took on the job of finding sponsors. And the rejection they faced was just.
Steeped in blatant social prejudice.
The accounts mention the responses she got. She was frequently told, in no uncertain terms, that they should be raising children instead.
Can you just imagine the frustration? Trying to organize a historic, globally significant expedition and being dismissed with that kind of archaic, solipsist retort.
It says so much about the barriers they had to overcome just to get to the base of the mountain.
It really does. They eventually got some last-minute funding from a newspaper and a TV station.
Who recognized the media potential, I'm sure.
Of course. The world's first all-female Everest attempt. But even with sponsors, the cost was crippling for the members.
And that's the critical context. Each member still had to pay 1.5 million yen out of pocket.
Which, in the early 1970s in Japan, for an educated working professional, that could be more than a full year's salary.
An astronomical personal investment.
It was.
So what did Tabei do? How did she raise her share?
She went back to basics. She taught piano lessons. This legendary mountaineer, preparing for the most dangerous journey on Earth, was tutoring local kids in music and English.
Lesson by lesson, just scraping the money together.
And this necessity, it drove a level of ingenuity that is it's one of the most compelling parts of the whole story.
Because every yen was precious.
So she had to become her own equipment designer and manufacturer.
Okay, we have to slow down on this detail. We're talking about gear that is literally life or death on Everest. Insulation, waterproofing.
And Tabei is improvising with household materials. The accounts give us specifics. She needed waterproof gloves, couldn't afford top-of-the-line ones.
So she made them from the heavy vinyl cover of her family's car.
Cutting and stitching the material herself.
That's the ultimate example of necessity as the mother of invention.
Yeah, it really is. And it wasn't just gloves. She needed durable trousers. She sewed her own climbing pants out of old curtains from her house.
This isn't just budgeting. This is building her own world, physically and financially, so she could chase her passion.
So they finally begin the expedition, March 1975, using the classic Hillary Norgay route from 53, with 6 experienced Sherpa guides.
And the media attention was intense.
Oh, yeah. Journalists, a TV crew, everyone was there. And everything was going according to plan, that grueling, slow ascent.
Until May 4th, 1975.
That day brought catastrophic bad luck, a near-death experience that tested their collective will to its absolute limit.
They were at Camp 2, around 6,300 meters.
About 20,700 feet, yeah. They were camping when the camp was suddenly hit by a massive slab avalanche.
The sources convey the sudden violence of it all. Tabei said she felt like she was being tossed around like a rag doll.
She and 4 other climbers were completely buried under compacted snow and ice.
And she lost consciousness.
Our life was saved only because the quick-thinking Sherpa guides managed to locate and dig her out.
Miraculously, no casualties.
Thanks to the Sherpa's training, yeah. But Tabei was badly bruised, injured. She could barely walk for 2 days.
So this is the critical juncture, the ultimate test. After being buried alive, dizzy, in pain, the sensible response is to go down.
To withdraw from the expedition. She'd already survived a major disaster.
But her drive was just uncompromising.
Absolutely. The accounts confirm that as soon as she could physically put weight on her knees, she was back on the ropes, continuing the climb.
Just 2 days after her near-death experience.
That decision to continue, despite the trauma, that's what defines her tenacity.
But the drama wasn't over.
Not by a long shot. As she recovered and they pressed on, they hit another logistical problem.
Just as they were planning the final push.
The original plan was for 2 women to summit, but then a sudden bout of altitude sickness hit some of the key Sherpas.
Which meant less oxygen could be carried for the summit party.
Exactly. They had to scale back to a single summit attempt. The leader, Aiko Hisano, gathered the team, and after a lot of deliberation, she nominated Tabei to complete the climb.
So the fate of the entire 4-year, all the sacrifices, the team effort, it all rested on her shoulders.
All of it. And as she got near the peak, she faced one last unexpected horror, one that she found almost worse than the avalanche.
Worse than the avalanche? What was it?
It was a failure of transparency in the exploration community. The biographical accounts note her intense fury. Nearing the summit, she was shocked to discover this narrow, highly unstable, dangerous ridge of ice.
And it had gone completely unmentioned in all the previous expedition accounts she'd studied.
All of them, including the ones from 1953. It was a terrifying, critical danger point that other climbers had just failed to report.
That lack of warning is almost as dangerous as the obstacle itself.
It is. She described crossing it as the most tense moment she'd ever had. She couldn't walk upright. She had to crawl along this razor-thin ridge sideways.
Knowing a single slip meant certain death.
After surviving being buried alive, that act of inching along an unexpected, treacherous path, that was the moment that pushed her to the very edge.
But she made it, 12 days after the avalanche.
Crawling, bruised, but absolutely resolute. On May 16, 1975, with her Sherpa guide Aang Sering, Junko Tabei reached the summit.
The first woman to stand on the roof of the world.
And the world just exploded with recognition. It wasn't just a sporting achievement, it was a societal milestone.
The reaction was immediate, overwhelming. A parade in Kathmandu. Thousands of cheering supporters at the Tokyo airport when she got back.
Messages from the King of Nepal, the Japanese government. A TV miniseries was even made about it.
But here's where we get to the core of Tabei's philosophy, right? It links back to her initial love of mountaineering as a non-competitive thing.
Exactly. She was showered with attention, but the sources make it very clear she was fundamentally uncomfortable with the spectacle of global celebrity.
She famously rejected it. She told the media she preferred to be remembered simply as the 36th person to summit Everest.
The number 1 was irrelevant to her. She said it plainly. I did not intend to be the first woman on Everest.
Her motivation was the challenge, the experience, the view from the top.
Not the record books or the endorsements.
And that decision to reject fame and to reject corporate dependence, that really defines her next chapter, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. For almost anyone else, Everest is the end, the final chapter. For Tabei, it was just a very expensive training climb.
It set the stage for something much more ambitious. The 7 summits.
And she made a clear decision after that Everest media storm. She never accepted corporate sponsorship again.
The deliberate choice for financial independence.
Yeah, she didn't want the restrictions or the obligations that came with major funding. So she kept saving money by teaching music in English, making paid appearances, guiding tours.
She relied on friends and supporters for donations of gear and food, but maintained her own autonomy.
And that independence allowed her to methodically pursue her personal goal, the highest mountain on every continent.
Starting in 1980 with Kilimanjaro.
And then she just ticked them off. Aconcagua in 87, Denali in 88, Elbrus in 89, Vinson in Antarctica in 91.
And finally, Puncak Jaya in Oceania in 1992.
And that final ascent officially made her the first woman to complete the 7 summits, an incredible record.
But her quest didn't stop there either.
No, she saw the 7 summits as just one categorization. Her ultimate personal goal was much broader.
To climb the highest mountain in every country in the world.
And by the end of her life, she had completed at least 70 of these national high points.
That just shows a dedication that completely transcends record chasing. It was about the joy of the quest itself.
It was. But her legacy is defined by more than just climbing. In her later life, she dedicated herself to something critical that many mountaineers overlook.
The environmental degradation of the mountains she loved.
This is such a powerful and necessary shift. Tabei had seen firsthand how the commercialization of Everest,
spurred in part by her own historic climb,
had accelerated the environmental damage at high altitude.
So to address this scientifically, in 2000, she goes back to university.
She completes postgraduate studies at Kyushu University, specifically researching the environmental problems caused by climbing groups, focusing on the waste left behind on Everest.
And what did her research find?
It looked into the shocking amount of non-biodegradable waste. Abandoned oxygen cylinders, old ropes, tents, and critically human waste left exposed where decomposition is impossible.
And that's not just an eyesore, right? It's a health risk.
A serious health risk. It contaminates water sources as the ice melts, affecting Sherpas and future climbers.
It's the ultimate ethical turn for an explorer, realizing that the act of conquering can destroy what you love.
And she translated this research into fierce activism. She became the director of the Himalayan Adventure Trust of Japan, working globally to preserve mountain environments.
And this wasn't just fundraising or policy work.
No, this was hands-on, practical engineering solutions, which links right back to her self-made gear for Everest.
The incinerator.
She spearheaded the design and installation of a specialized incinerator near Everest Base Camp, designed specifically to burn climbers' trash safely.
And she led by example. She organized cleanup climbs.
Many of them, yeah. In Japan and the Himalayas, often with her husband and her children, dedicating her fame and resources to giving back to the mountains that defined her life.
She continued to get honors, of course.
Yeah.
In 2003, for the 50th anniversary celebration of the first Everest summit, she and Sir Edmund Hillary,
the two pivotal figures in Everest history,
were given a special place in the festivities. That puts her in genuinely legendary company.
She was also a prolific author, 7 books between 1996 and 2008, but her commitment also extended to her local community.
After the huge 2011 Great East Japan earthquake, which hit her home region of Fukushima hard,
she shifted her focus. She started organizing annual guided trips up Mount Fuji, specifically for school children who'd been affected by the disaster.
using the mountain not as a challenge, but as a therapeutic resource.
Exactly. A way to heal and inspire a new generation, teaching them resilience through the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other.
Even when her own health was failing, her spirit was just unbroken.
She was diagnosed with stomach cancer in 2012, but she refused to let it stop her climbing.
The sources mention her final act of leadership.
Despite her advancing illness, in July 2016, just a few months before she died, she led a youth expedition up Mount Fuji. She passed away in October 2016 at age 77.
And her impact has been permanently marked in our solar system. An asteroid, 16897, was named Tabei after her.
And then in 2019, a major mountain range on Pluto was formally named Tabei Montes in her honor.
The ultimate posthumous recognition for an explorer.
It really is, and her story continues to inspire. In 2025, for the 50th anniversary of her Everest climb, a new film, Climbing for Life, is scheduled to open the Tokyo International Film Festival.
So her legacy is continually being rediscovered.
What an immense journey we've covered, from the child told she was too frail to the woman who financed her dream with piano lessons and sewed her survival gear from car covers.
She survived an avalanche that buried her alive. She rejected the easy path of corporate celebrity.
And she dedicated her post-record life to actively cleaning up the world she had successfully conquered.
Tabei's life really does expand the definition of what exploration is. It wasn't just about the summit. It was about achieving independence, challenging cultural norms.
And ultimately accepting environmental responsibility for the pristine world she loved.
She proved, conclusively, that mountaineering was not solely the domain of wealthy male explorers.
Her dedication to the 7 summits and the 70 highest national peaks just solidifies her legacy as one of the most profound explorers of the 20th century.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Tabei's personal quest is, I think, a powerful metaphor for perseverance against daunting odds.
Whether they're financial, societal, or an actual physical disaster. Her story teaches us that preparation and skill are crucial, but often survival depends on that unwavering will and the willingness to improvise.
The most enduring takeaway from her journey isn't the number of records, is it?
No, it's the spirit in which she broke them. Her strength wasn't blind stoicism. It was the ability to adapt, improvise, accept help, and crucially, to keep moving forward even after disaster.
She refused to let the societal narrative that she should be home raising children define her limits.
She defined her own quest right down to the gear she sewed herself.
And that's the final thought we want to leave you with, straight from the source. On the 80th anniversary of her birth, her famous motivation slogan was shared with the world. It's a simple, powerful command.
Do not give up. Keep on your quest.
Apply that perseverance, that ingenuity, and that relentless spirit to your own challenge, whatever mountain you might be facing.
The financing might be scarce, the social pressure might be high, and you might even hit some unexpected ice ridges. But the quest is profoundly yours to complete.
A truly inspiring life. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.
Until next time.